Hi, everybody. Welcome to the program. You can see I'm adjusting my green screen.
Almost there, Frank. I think you need just a little more light. There you go.
Yeah, I got light. I don't have the camera. There's something wrong with the camera, I think. Let's see. No, it's this one. All right. Well,
Dad, you're too tall now.
Am I too tall?
Possibly.
What is this? Now I get notifications or what? Not now. Leave me alone.
I would say just close out of the Facebook window entirely. Just leave it.
There. Okay. Well, yeah, sure. Close enough. Okay.
Enough for government work.
Wow. So they're taking down 300-foot three 100-foot trees on my property.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. I was told by the town, do me a favor, buddy, cut those trees down. All right. So you have to call somebody in. It can be expensive. I learned that. But, you know, it's finally done. They started early this morning and got that done. Yesterday afternoon, I got a message from a mutual friend, Lisa, who sent me a message saying that a mutual friend of ours, Caroline, is now going into hospice because the cancer's a little too much. Within 4 hours, she was gone.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And, you know, F cancer, we say it all the time, Aaron, you know. They volunteer in every city that the Grey Cup's held to help with, you know, all the venues, showing people where stuff is. And they go to every Grey Cup and do that. In every Grey Cup, I have to figure out where they are, and I'd meet them at one of the venues. We'd go for a couple of beers and have a good time and chat, and you know, the old CFL thing. Yeah, I'm not going to look forward to going to the Grey Cup as much as I used to. It bothers me more than anything. I don't know about anybody else when it comes to death. It bothers me more than anything when people I care about who are younger than I am die. It irritates me. So I was very irritated last night about it. Thankful that I got to know her and Lisa. Her name's Caroline Saxon. She's a Rider fan. I miss her, and I'm going to miss her when it comes to the Grey Cup. As the wheel of life turns. And last night it turned in a way that I really don't like. But who does? So let's move on to why we're here. And so the Leafs are looking to replace Marner with a 22-goal scorer. Tell me all about it, Aaron, because I'm dying to know.
Well, the current rumor being bruited about by NHL insider Elliot Friedman has the Maple Leafs linked to Jack Roslovic. Roslovic is 28 years old. He's coming off a 22-goal season with the Carolina Hurricanes, which ties his career high. He was actually one of the pieces that went back to Columbus during the Patrick Laine trade a couple seasons back when there was a lot of stuff being moved around. He's one of the few best forward options currently remaining in unrestricted free agency. Now, there are possibilities out there for the Maple Leafs to acquire him via trade, but it certainly makes sense to try and lock Roslovic down and then potentially supplement with a deal once they know exactly what the rest of their depth chart is going to look like. You know, it's one of those things where he is one of those lesser known but still potentially very valuable pieces that the Leafs can bring in. So.
And he knows Austin Matthews. They played together in two different levels of USA hockey.
Yep, that's correct. You know, it's one of those things where he played with Matthews during their time in the U.S. National Development Program. And there's certainly a familiar portion to it there. So the possibilities are certainly there to try to reunite them because they definitely have had chemistry in the past. So we'll see if this actually comes to fruition based on the Leafs cap friendly page and how much they're actually currently looking at. And I do apologize. It's not cap friendly. It's Puckpedia. cap friendly spot. I keep forgetting that. They've got $4.9 million to kick around. So, the possibility is still there for them to pick up Roslovic should they need to. He's currently on a 1 year. His most previous contract, was a 1 year, $2.8 million deal. So they definitely have room to fit him in, as well as potentially add some supplemental pieces with the other $2.1 million.
Yeah, and his value right now, they could buy low. That's what they should do. Please don't do what they did with Nyes. It's the paying players what you think they may do. The high side of what they might do really is a faulty plan, and it seems to be one that runs right through the Maple Leafs. Doesn't matter who's in charge. It's weird, but it is what it is. And then you've got situations like Mangiapane refuses to play for Toronto because of the pressure. This is something that was, I believe, the reporter that was attributed with this story has now come out and said, I never said any such thing. And he was quoted not. So, this is how desperate we are in the hockey media world. We're looking for stories. And nothing's a better story than suggesting that playing for the Leafs sucks because it's too hard. It's too tough.
Yeah, you see that it's easy to drum up interest and negative clicks through stuff like that. But the real reason why Mangiapane turned it down was due to the fact that he wanted to lock in a new deal as quickly as possible. He didn't want to spend time messing around with anything. And the team that he ended up signing with offered him what he was looking for. So
quickly.
There you go.
Yeah, so good for him. And,
yeah.
Now, where are the Leafs now? They don't have a lot of options, but they've got to look. They've got to look in the import bin, previous NHL player bin. Maybe more a more developed college player. The point is, they have to find basically a couple of unicorns that they can put in the lineup because, as the GM Treliving said, there is no, or I forget who said it. Oh no, I guess it was him that said there's no Marner tree where you can pick off another Marner.
Well, and the whole thing is at this point here, now that we're a good solid week into the free agent frenzy, you're now picking through the $5 DVD bin at Walmart trying to find that hidden Hollywood classic that somehow got
the one-hit wonder.
Else. But Matias Maccelli, on the other hand, believes he's ready for a top six role with the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen.
That is something that's going to be interesting. After having a down year last year where he only had 18 points, that's 8 goals and 10 assists in 55 games. He says it was due to the fact that his ice time was rather limited. But the fact that we picked him up for a conditional third-round pick is the equivalent of getting a potentially surprising DVD out of the $5 bin. So we'll see what happens there. The good news is they also have a little bit of help developing the back end, which I think is just as important, and a lot of people tend to forget. And leading the charge on that is actually going to be Jake Muzzin, who's going to have an opportunity to pass off some of his knowledge to the Leafs 2024 first-round pick, Ben Danford. So it's good to see former Leafs are going to be kicking in. Muzzin actually has been talking almost weekly with prospects like Danford and Noah Chadwick throughout the year. He's been watching their game tape and helping them break down deficiencies in their game to help them out. It's a good thing for Danford, especially. He's coming off his third season with the OHL's Oshawa Generals, where he captained the club to the championship final against Easton Cowan and the London Knights. But the Knights were able to run roughshod over him. So, Leaf prospect versus Leaf prospect, at the end of the day, if you've got Muzzin in your ear, it's not a bad thing at all.
Danford's a good guy that could turn into something. Then we've got the Kadri-Riley trade that people are talking about. If I were Calgary, I'd give my head a shake if I went for that trade. Kadri is far more valuable than Riley is.
Oh, 100%. And that's not to denigrate or put down Morgan for these $7.5 million that he's currently getting paid. Uh, he is very good at what he does, but unfortunately, there are some glaring holes in his game, and you're not going to fix that by bringing in a guy like Kadri, who I'm pretty sure doesn't want to come back here, who also has some holes in his game for just about the same amount of money. Um, if the Flames were going to take on that extra year of Riley's salary, Treliving may have to add another asset to make the deal work for the Flames, something like a second round draft pick, which the Leafs have in the 27 and 28 drafts, but not in the 2026 draft. The 26 draft is the one that's more interesting to the Calgary Flames because that's supposed to be one of the deepest ones they've had in a few years. So I'm not sure how the Leafs would actually go about doing that, but at the same time, Calgary would be a little bit short-sighted if they were to try to take that deal.
If Kadri came to Toronto, it wouldn't solve the problem of having a star right winger,
No.
but it would solidify the number 2 hole for sure as far as center is concerned. Then you could drop Tavares down to the 3 hole, and that he wouldn't be so bad a third line center. I don't think Tavares is I don't think he's any longer. I don't think he's a second line center. You want a little more from a second line center. You need some offense from the second line. It goes without saying. As far as the Leafs makeup is, I'm telling you, whiplash. Up until last year, the Leafs had offense, no defense. Well, now with what happened with Marner, their defense is actually better than their offense, in my opinion, at this stage, at this point.
And it's not in particular even like they've done anything drastic to the back end to make it any better. It's their defense has to become better and looks better because of the removal of Mitch Marner, which is an interesting way to look at it. And by bringing in Pizzetta, by bringing in Nicholas Roy, by doing what they've done with Nyes, by letting some of the other players go and not re-signing them, they are speaking to a better commitment to team defense as a whole, as opposed to just offense all the time.
And it's not just that. It's when they talk about DNA change, it's now starting to come out. People are starting to say things. I don't know whether it's basically kicking somebody who's down or not even here or can't defend themselves in Marner. There's a little bit of talk that he was a little more interested in himself than he was the team. There are some that suggest, some players, in fact, the rumor mill's going crazy, that felt that it was more about him than it was anything else. And in lieu of that, I think when the conversation came around to captaining the Maple Leafs, Marner's dad and Marner himself, opined, let it be known that he's of captain quality. And that to me is something that should never have been said publicly, Aaron. Not even intimated, never mind said.
No, it's certainly any, and I don't want to sound like I'm reading too much into this, but any true captain doesn't really go out of their way to say, hey, I'm the captain. People will acknowledge that you're the captain and you have the skills to be a captain without you having to push it and put it out there that you're the captain. That's, I think, one of the key things that you have to remember here is leadership isn't just given to you because you say you're good enough. You have to show that you're good enough.
And to put a finer point on that, part of being a leader is not making it about you. It's about making it about the team. And it's about leading by example, not by what you say. Talking to guys and telling them what they should be doing is not good enough. It's about what you do and how you do it. And you and I, Aaron, both know it's long and historical. The best captains of any team in any league, whether it be the NHL, junior, any league, the National Hockey League, of course, Olympics, anything like that. It's always about a leader who leads by example, speaks less, does more.
No, 100%. And this ain't the way to go. So, We'll have to see where all of this comes out for Marner. I'll be interested to see how he does in Vegas with new line mates. Who knows? Maybe Austin Matthews was the one holding him back from realizing his true potential at the end of the day. You know?
There's a thing, you know, it's amazing when you look in retrospect and you look at situations. I'll give an example. And this is as much as you and I have cried foul because Florida did abuse Marner quite a bit. He was cross-checked. He was, you know, in the corner. He felt the feet of the referee. And, you know, now that I look at it in a different light, and again, in retrospect, I ask myself, is it the fact that a penalty wasn't called the limit of what the problem was at that moment? I've come to realize that wasn't the limit to the problem that Marner had. The bigger problem he had is nobody stood up for him. When you think about that, Aaron, that speaks kind of volumes of something, I think. It says something. As much as we want to complain about the foul, the cross-check he took, you know, and that kind of stuff, the way he was mistreated, the fact is, when you think about it, I don't remember anybody coming to his rescue.
No, you know, come to think of it, looking back on it now, he did very much seem to be on an island unto himself.
And I don't know if this is just us, like,
Projecting after the fact.
Things up. I hope I'm not making things up. I'm just connecting dots that actually exist. I don't think they're dots that don't exist. That's something to think about. You know, when it comes to officiating, and a guy gets, you know, the crap kicked out of him or has something done, a foul against him. There is that other part. Where are his teammates? There is that other part. It is actual reality. And now in this frame and in this kind of conversation, it speaks to something that is very troubling to me, because this isn't something that people thought was only last year. This is something that was an ongoing thing. And I go back again to the poor decision by Shanahan to wait an extra year to get rid of Dubas, when he could have got rid of Dubas the year before, and Treliving would have had a year with the Leafs. He would have seen the DNA problem a little sooner, and he could have done something that could have given the Leafs at least a player of equal, and I'm going to say, or more value, because the word wasn't completely out yet that, you know, that the Leafs, the core forward, just can't do it, right? There would have been 2 years now that he wouldn't have been in the playoffs against the Leafs, for the Leafs, sorry. So yeah, it goes down to, in sports, where in this case, let's say all this isn't, and I promise to tie this up in a pretty bow. So having said all that stuff, there is a thing in sports, a process called addition by subtraction. And addition by subtraction says there are players that don't improve you because they're on your team. And no matter how good they look, no matter how good you think they are, but for some reason, their absence all of a sudden triggers a better outcome for the team as a whole. It happens. And now the curiosity is here. If the Leafs do better this year with a less talented team, which they will be, because I don't see them finding anybody that can elevate the offense or elevate the talent level of the Maple Leafs, and they do better, that very point will be made, that subtraction can lead to addition. And I hope for the Leafs' sakes, and I hope the Leafs' sake and the Leaf fans' sake, that in fact that is the case. The fact that Marner is gone now, you know, the lightning rod of angst and anger that the fans have, he's such a magnet. I just don't think that Leaf fans want to pick on anybody, Aaron. And it'll be nice to not have, because, you know, that picking on Marner isn't good for anybody. It doesn't help any Leaf when one of their fellow teammates is getting the side eye and all the other stuff, right? And what's worse, if they think the guy deserves it, my mind is blowing on how different it can be if the Leaf team this year is one that actually pulls on the same rope together. And if the guys that are remaining, And remember, to ensure that the bow is tied, we saw what happened with Nylander and Marner, and Nylander pretty much told Marner off on the bench.
Yep. And you know that the fact that William Nylander, one of the chillest, most laid back dude bros ever, snapped like that during a playoff game at Marner on the bench, I think speaks volumes as to what was actually happening behind the scenes that we don't see as fans.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, good for the Leafs. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. But let's talk about the Blue Jays. And let me say this very clearly: the first place Blue Jays, 3 games ahead of both Tampa and the Yankees. When the season started, the Yankees were untouchable. They were gonna win 100. They were going to win 160 games. They were probably only going to lose about 2 games. Things changed.
And things changed in a hurry. Look, you look at what's happened now, and Bo Bichette homered and scored the deciding run against the as the Blue Jays kept their winning ways going. I think that's now 8 straight wins for the Jays. Davis Schneider knocked in Bichette in the 6th inning with a single down the left field line for a series sweep, and Toronto are now 52-38. Mike Trout smacked a solo shot for his 14th of the year for the Angels with 2 out in the opening inning, but after that, pretty much all she wrote. And the Jays have been surprisingly consistent when it comes to this sort of thing. And, at the end of the day, I'm very happy to see that the Jays now have 52 wins with 6 games remaining before the All-Star break. They're sitting where they need to be to make sure that they make the playoffs. And, I don't want to be overly optimistic, but I do believe that there is an opportunity for this team to get further in the playoffs than the Leafs did in theirs.
Yeah. First of all, and most importantly, it's the way they're winning. It's the way they're winning. But you know what? It could end up just like the Leafs. I mean, this happened before. The Jays had a great run, and they made the playoffs, and then they blew it. But here's the thing. All we've seen right now is a positive thing with the Blue Jays now. They're playing really well. Enjoy the ride. Who cares what's going to happen in the playoffs? Let's enjoy the games that are going on now. Let's see how they do, series. They've won 7 series in a row. In fact, this homestand, they didn't lose a game. The whole homestand, they won every game in this past homestand with 3 teams. They swept all 3. So, enjoy this. I'm a baseball fan as well, as hockey and football. And I can tell you this, the way the team is winning is actually pretty good. And they're doing it with a team that people like myself weren't sure that they had the guys, to do what needed to be done. And Aaron, the same thing we talk about with hockey, where there have to be players that show up at the beginning of the season that you don't think will do very much. You need a handful of surprises, players who play past their potential. There's that word, who play better than their potential. And a handful of them that do it can put you over the edge if your standard stars play to their potential. That's the difference. You got the Jays stars playing to the potential they can. And now you got guys who've come onto the team and are surprising, not just the fans, but baseball in general. Barger is an incredible player. Nobody predicted that he would be that kind of home run hitter and key hitter. I mean, this is what's going on with the Jays. They're playing with house money, really.
Yeah, at this point, it really does seem like they're able to get through on basically their skill and their charm, which is kind of awesome. Also, the fact that, as you mentioned, certain players have been showing up to play. In particular, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Has been a bit of a surprise again. He's always been popular, but he has been named to the American League starters for the All-Star game this year, July 15th.
Only Jay to be that.
Yeah, the other one is Alejandro Kirk, who is listed as one of the infield reserves as a catcher. One of the surprising snubs so far this year has been George Springer, mainly because he's had an absolutely resurgent season. I don't know if he's managed to
watch how good he is.
Exactly. He's hit a couple grand slams against them. You can't exactly. I'm just curious as to how the voting is actually decided because he doesn't seem to have made the team.
Well, there's a lot of baseball players. There's a lot of teams, and that may speak to, and it's a good thing in a way, Aaron. That I think that it's kind of interesting when a Blue Jay is shown some disrespect. Remember, I was saying about bad stuff that happens to an individual on a team spreads. Well, unfairness that's done to one of your teammates can really light a fire under you.
This is very true. And he's not the only one to be stubbed. Randy Arozarena isn't there. Juan Soto isn't there. Joe Adele isn't there. Framber Valdez isn't there. Nathan Eovaldi hasn't been invited. So there's a lot of disappointment to go around. Hopefully the Jays will be able to, and George will be able to continue to use this as additional motivation down the line as we get past the All-Star break and in towards the stretch run.
But 5 Dodgers were selected. Let's go over to the Canadian Football League and Justin Rankin. My goodness, this weekend was kick returners are back in the Canadian Football League this year, and this weekend we had the grocery chain gave away $1 million, $50,000, for 20 years, 2 kick returns in one game. There were 2 more. Unfortunately, one was a punt return, not a kick return. Otherwise, it would have been another winner. This is it's an amazing season. We saw the Argos lose, but last night the Elks game was something else. The Lions beat the Owls. The Stamps beat the Bombers. Aaron, what's going on? And of course the Ticats beat the Argos.
At the end of the day,
those surprises to you? Were any of them surprises?
The Stamps downing the Bombers, I think, in the Stampede Bowl, I wasn't exactly expecting. I know that Winnipeg has a history of coming in and walking all over Calgary, so I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Certainly, Rankin's runbacks for victory over the Red Blacks was a sight to behold. He led the Elks in both rushing and receiving, going for 105 yards on the ground and 69 yards through the air to add to his 2 majors of over 45 yards. Trey Ford was really good behind center, completing 15 of 17 for 212 yards. So that was good to see. Bo Levi absolutely picked apart the Argonauts with the Ticats there. 5 majors, like, dude. 51-38 was just embarrassing.
Pretty good receiver to throw to as well.
Oh yeah, I mean his favorite target, was definitely available. I'm hoping Kelly comes back sooner rather than later, so that he can sort of cover over and hide the Argonauts' defensive blemishes with a little bit of offense.
Week 8, Aaron. Week 7 or week 8.
It's a coming. Slowly but surely, man. But this has been.
They got to win another game or two to stay in a place where they can do some damage and get into the playoffs and do some damage and get a better position, at least a home field advantage to one of the games, if that's possible. All right, the Montreal Canadiens signed Dobish to a 2-year deal.
Yeah, after a really good season, being brought in as a late season backup, I don't think a lot of people were expecting a lot of Dobish, but he did actually manage to put in a decent season. He's getting $965,000 a season. He played in 16 games this year, earning himself a 7-4-3 record with a .909 save percentage and a .274 goals against average. He originally started with the Rocket, which was nice to see. Got a shutout in his first career game against the Florida Panthers in late December. So happy for him in that regard.
5 former Sens first-rounders found new NHL homes this week.
Yeah, Shane Bowers was a first-round pick, but he never actually played for the Senators. He was drafted in the first round of 2017. That fall, Brady Tkachuk joined Bowers at Boston University. But 5 months after he was drafted, Bowers was sent to Colorado in the Matt Duchene deal. He was traded by the New Jersey Devils this week to the San Jose Sharks for Thomas Bordeleau. Connor Brown has a 4-year, $12 million contract with the New Jersey Devils. He was also a first-round pick. Ottawa's 2016 first-round draft pick, Logan Brown, got parted ways with the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Kings took a chance on him, signed him to a 1-year, 2-way deal. Jacob Bernard Docker was traded along with Josh Norris to the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for Cousins and Gilbert. But he's now with the Red Wings with a contract worth $875. Cody Ceci, well, he's with the Kings. They signed him to a 4-year, $18 million deal, so he's somebody else's problem. And finally, Evgeny Dadonov has signed a 1-year contract with the Devils worth $1 million plus performance bonuses.
And then we've got Taves signing with Winnipeg.
Yeah, it was officially announced on July 4th. It was finally announced that the Winnipeg Jets had added Jonathan Taves. He did his first media meet and greet as a Jet. You know what? This is Winnipeg's first game this season is going to be the first time that Taves will have actually suited up since the 2023 season. So it's been a while.
Absolutely. The Bruins are linked to McDavid, record-setting 7-year contract. Excuse me?
There is talk that Boston, even though they have rapidly arrived in the mushy middle of NHL mediocrity, they are looking at getting a number one center. They're a big market. They're an original 6 franchise. Now McDavid is probably going to be getting a record-setting contract, potentially the max 7-year variety or 8 years in a sign and trade. But the Bruins have firmly established themselves as one of the teams that are in the mix for that.
Actually, absolutely wonderful.
Wouldn't it be interesting to see him in our division?
I'd prefer to see him in a Leaf uniform only because he'd be fun to talk about.
For sure, that'd be interesting,
and that would resolve the issue with the Marnerless Leafs.
For sure. Oh my God!
But I don't know if McDavid can handle the pressure. Can you imagine? McDavid doesn't come to Leafs because he can't handle the pressure of being a Maple Leaf. Now, being the best player in the world, that's no problem. But being a Leaf, just can't do that. That's just a little too tough. Aaron, this was swell.
Hey, I'm glad we had a chance to do this today, Frank.
So am I. Long day, and now it's come to an end. Thank God. Not the show, but the day, so I can now put my feet up. I really need a beer and a sit down to see some sports, hopefully. And if you listen real careful in the background, you can hear a saw going.
He's still at it, eh?
He's still at it, yeah. Well,
wow.
I said 300-foot trees and another 2 trees that are fair sized as well. Time to go out there and see how he's doing. Thanks for doing this, Aaron, again. And for the rest of you, thank you for watching. Don't forget you can check out Candid Frank Snisha on YouTube at Candid Frank Snisha 10:30 on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Wednesday.